Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for making it here so early, and I'm excited to really start with a topic that's very close to my heart. You may find it unexpected that an entrepreneur really picks education as a topic to talk about. And we as Brainlab digitize surgery. What we do is some kind of GPS system, and from there, that technology we established in neurosurgery, we started to roll it out everywhere and create an operating system for surgery. So what is crippling our success potentially, or what is stopping us from taking over the world in this technology field? Well, we have the technology. We have created a framework to build and solicit a data ecosystem. But what is really most critical is finding a way of rewiring the brains of our customers to adopt them, to get them to adopt the technology faster, steeper, more effectively. So the limiting factor for every tech company is how can you do growth hacking? How can you accelerate the adoption curve of what you're doing? So I think everybody working in this industry should listen to this topic, and hopefully find inspiration in what we did to do some growth hacking and accelerate the way of how we can roll out technology, how we can scale it up, and how can we adopt our customers more rapidly to what we do. And I think that a lot of the examples can be generalized to what is missing and what should be done in education. First of all, how do we get get engaged in that? And Steffi had a slide up that talked about connecting the unexpected. And Brainlab acquired a company 2 years ago in the midst of the first wave of the pandemic called Level X in Chicago. And that is, in fact, a true DLD child, because in the typical Steffi child style, she basically said, okay, here's a guy you got to meet, Sam, and basically was one of those quasi Steffi blind dates that you more or less from time to time can't escape. And so it was really a meeting of the minds, and we basically ended up acquiring the company. And since we have been involved, it has just really further expanded my horizon and basically also broadened the scope of what we do. So Level X is a company that is leveraging the best technology from computer gaming industry to accelerate growth and adoption. And so that's why I think it really is something that matters for every company, and that's why also Brainlab has some experiences there. But what are essentially the things that really matter, or that are maybe different in education to what it used to be 10 or 20 years ago? First of all, the infrastructure. Everybody has one of those, and I think we need to rethink about how that resource is to be used for education. For school children, we ask them to take it away at the beginning of the class. It's a very valuable resource that is getting more broadly accessible. In Germany, from the 14 to 39-year-old, 95% have basically a mobile device. And using it and leveraging for education is important, and in our today's lives, it becomes increasingly the mother of all things, and let's really just build an educational platform on that. What is also crucial is the technology that has been developed in gaming is something that we need to leverage. Reality rules. We are able to create a virtual reality, a sandbox in which we can try out things better than we could sometimes try them out in the physical world. Brainlab has used Level X to have training tools for its radiotherapy positioning products, which basically is really hard to explain and to show because you can't see radiation, you can't basically test things on a real patient, but we have created this virtual environment that really enables us to do all of that in a way where you can take basically different tests and try different variations of the very same procedure. So essentially, we've created a framework that's better than any training that you could potentially do in real life. But then also, what did we learn from using that technology? The ability to adapt to every single patient and to every single student in this case is important. To every patient, because we also can use the technology to have them adopt a new behavior. We can use it for physicians and surgeons to adopt a new skill, but it can also be used for a number of objectives with students, from social skills to tactile skills to cognitive skills, something that can work really very broad. Today, training is still one teacher to maybe 30 kids, or one professor to 300 students, so the level of individualization of the training is very limited. But this is something that we are able to really leverage and deploy in our framework, in our setup that we have created with using gaming technology, and it can also scale in a different way. So the individualization is really key, and this is something that the gaming industry has taught us over 20 years, and basically millions of players, where you can essentially leverage and balance the combination of frustration if you miss something and you're trying again and get angry after a while, but also the reward. And so the balance between frustration and reward is something that really makes training much more effective, and is a way of adopting it and adjusting it to every single person, which we essentially do with our technology. And that's, I think, important, and something that can be leveraged just across many areas of education. The next topic is learning is lifelong. So what we once learned is something that is soon outdated, and something that continuously needed to be adjusted. That is also true in healthcare. In the pandemic, for example, the way of how you intubate a patient, to basically put them into anesthesia, has really changed, because the protocol now all of a sudden needed to be in a different order, because the patient potentially could have had COVID. So basically, the ability to then change and train that new behavior is something that is quite important and quite crucial, which we have been able to do and roll out using basic gaming technology. So again, very crucial topic to have the ability to continuously deploy that. And also, once you have rolled out and reached a number of physicians, so in our case, we have 700,000 doctors play our games. So when we change something and want to get a new idea across, we can immediately roll it out globally at the push of a button. And so in a time when things are changing much more rapidly, having the ability to deploy something quickly is super urgent and super relevant. And that's, again, what this technology enables us to deliver. And something that in the past has not really been available in the training. So people always need to be brought back to class or other training formats, and that's really something that is quite relevant. And the ability to try things out is crucial. Typically, you can get a lecture, like, for example, I'm lecturing to you. It's the most ineffective way of learning, unfortunately. But basically, trying something out is the most effective way of doing that. So therefore, I invite you all later on to stop by, the little booth that we have set up outside, so that you can actually experience yourself how we can really very quickly get you to develop a mental model about how something works and functions, and something new maybe and can be deployed. And then basically having that capability is also creating the almost say social responsibility in rolling it out in a broader sense. So basically, on the one hand, we're developing training applications for NASA, which are used for deep space missions. The problem is that, for example, the problem there is that for the Apollo program, I think training was 3 years. And now for the deep space missions like to Mars, it's 10 years. And you can't squeeze in anything else into that. However, when people are in the process of, or astronauts on, leaving Earth, initially you can use telemedicine. But basically, once they get closer to Mars, the latency would be 40 minutes. So basically, they have a couple of months to really be trained, on their journey on how an ultrasound works, which of course is slightly different without gravity. So we needed to build a complete perfect physical simulator with all the physical effects of ultrasound, but it's an example of how we can create a learning environment that you cannot create in the physical world. So now what is available, for a deep space mission, which should also be available and accessible in a, second or third world country, where there's a big training need, where all the things that I just talked about are coming together: the infrastructure, the mobile devices, the technology that we have from the gaming industry, and the need to adopt, because the training objectives may be different. When you're training a physician, in our case, in basically New York or Munich, then what they need to learn, the probability of a particular disease, the order in which you do certain tests, the tests even that are available are very different, and things that we need to adjust and change. So now, what does it mean for for politics and what we need to implement there? On the one hand, we have a great technology in the private sector, and the private sector may develop, essentially random tools, and there's competition and innovation and technology that we have there. We, as Brainlab and Level X, for example, develop today, industry-sponsored content that may be from J&J and Medtronic and some of the big medtech companies, and also for our own purposes on how to adopt how to operate a ventilator, or how to use a particular endoscope, in the colon, etc. And there's like a number of different training tools that we can create, but it's not necessarily a strategic deployment of the entire training and teaching setup that we should do. So what really would be needed, building a complete curriculum, and it doesn't matter whether that's in healthcare or whether it's in mathematics 4th grade or any of those topics. But I think this is really something that calls for a new form of private-public partnership. We need to use the technology and competition from the private sector, but we also need rules and governance from basically that are basically being set by the public sector, so that the curriculum gets basically vetted against our values, that there's basically a certain framework, that the training objectives are properly being set, and basically this is something where together we can really accelerate adoption anywhere in the world. I think I'm dreaming of a world where in healthcare we can have gynecological applications for women maybe in rural Africa, where there is like completely different maybe diagnostic tests, etc., that are available and need to be done, and basically that maybe there can be nevertheless companies that make equipment and need to basically inject their training skills, but then a lot of the basic components are being developed. Today, training is and education is very fragmented. If you look at Europe, on European level, national level, state level, university level, school level, and everybody on their own independently basically develops things, which is at one point good because it creates competition. On the other hand, we need to almost put together the different puzzle pieces that together we have a scalable and global setup for training. And so that's what I hope we can implement together. And so thank you again all for coming. And then I look forward to basically further elaborating on the topic in basically the speakers and the discussions following. Thank you very much.